Alright, hello and welcome to Echoes Color with Jeffery Morrison. How's it going? Alright, we're going to do another whip and chat today with Craftably's. Whoa, calm down there. Midnight Warrior by Sarah Burrier. I'm saying that right. 20 inches by 28 inches round drill. 62 colors in total, with two ABs, which stands for Aurora Borealis, and their iridescent coated type of drill that sparkles a little brighter than that of regular drills, and two rhinestones, silver bottom drills that are kind of see-through, translucent, I guess. All right, how's it going? I have never heard of the term high fantasy until I looked up the Sword of Truth series. And yeah, Game of Thrones is also considered high fantasy. Uh, Epic worlds, like epic scope and epic characters, is basically the large grand ideas, large storylines, that kind of thing. High fantasy. Thank you, Wikipedia. So there you go. Yeah, thanks for the advice for just keep reading Dragonfly and Amber. It'll make sense in the end. Okay, yeah, I'll just go with it. That's what my mom said too. Yeah, just don't get wrapped up in it. Wrapped up in the logic, just read it as it is. So, sounds easier. Okay, 39, number 3. Okay, yeah, so just doing like this kind of light pink here now. Just diving right in. Yeah, I'm going to mix up like the Sword of Truth and the Wheel of Time and Sword of Shannara. Oh, just looking up. Yeah, Sword of Truth is like 21 bucks or something. Terry Goodgon passed away in 2020, but yeah, September 2020 or something. It's like, holy cow. Some of the questions are like, did he really die? It's like, yeah, I have a date of his death. A Wikipedia search. It's like, okay. Holy cow. Didn't realize the Sword of Truth was that large, but oh, Wizard's first rule. I was kind of curious about it, so I picked it up a bit ago somewhere. So that's good. I'll just read the books as they are. Like, asked my mom for like the third Wheel of Time book. So I think she got that, and she said she got me one other book. I don't know if it was from the same series. And then I asked my sister-in-law for the second Sword of Truth book. I don't get a reply back yet. Or maybe she's like, what the hell? Head's like spinning from like all the different books. It's crazy. Yeah, but I've never heard of the term high fantasy as a subgenre of fantasy until today. So that makes stuff interesting. But there you go. The more you know. Thanks, Internet. Oh well, all good. I just called it fantasy because it's definitely what it is. But it's cool to see that there's other kind of series out there that are broad in scope. Yeah, I like those hardy, detailed books. Probably part of the fascination with the Wheel of Time. Just like the scope of it. Just seeing how many books published. And yeah, that it's a fantasy world, so it's just like, yeah, I can just kind of slide into a world while I'm reading on the treadmill, fantasy world while I'm hanging out on the treadmill and hanging out with some interesting characters with swords and stuff. Swords and magic and science fiction, and just like that futuristic aspect, and yeah, it's what's interesting there. I don't know, just small kind of books are just like well, the in-depth books are a certain length, by J.D. Robb. That's futuristic mystery romance kind of thing. But yeah, those are cool. That's like a long-running series of books as well. But yeah, that has its own appeal to it as well, just because they're based in the future. So you kind of have to imagine what things would look like a little differently, or like imagine what life would be like in the future, kind of thing. Really cool kind of concept there. I don't know, and I can focus tons more while on the treadmill now. So reading those like high plotline kind of books or long running series of novels, it is perfect. Keeps me motivated to keep doing my walking challenges. And I'm like reading instead of like binge watching like a whole bunch of shows on streaming services. But that's nothing against like streaming shows and all that. I don't know, I just more attentive to holding a book in my hand and reading, getting the details out of it instead of watching something unfold on a TV screen and just kind of reacting to it, and then it's like done. Feel with a book, you can you're kind of imagining the characters or seeing them in your head, and you kind of dwell in the on the material after you've like read the pages and all that. So I don't know, those are just my thoughts. Like there's nothing against watching a movie based on a book or whatever. Like nothing wrong with that, an adaptation. But I don't know, I think I'll always just go with the source material, the books. Sorry, nose was running. Yeah, my Terry Goodkind book, I don't know if my nose is running from that or just the weather. Don't know. I hope it's not book mold from that Terry Gugheim book. I was flipping through it and my nose started running. I'm starting to wonder now. I'd have to replace that copy. Or it could just be dust too. It is dusty down in my room. Well, can you do? Yeah, so I'm reading Dragonfly and Amber by Diana Gabaldon. Oh man, I'm butchering names on here. I already read Outlander, so I'm just slowly reading the Outlander series in order, just spreading it out. Yeah, I have the first Sword of Truth book, Wizard's First Rule. Yeah. That's all I have of that one. Yeah, the Sword of Truth series. Yeah, I've read the first book from The Wheel of Time. Yeah, asked my mom for the third book. I have the second book, The Great Hunt. So I can just like hop between series now. Just get like one book at a time from each series and just like dive in. I'd probably never run out of stuff to read, which would just be great fun. Yeah, Wikipedia is awfully subtle about wanting donations. Just like freaking pop-up windows on when you search something up on Wikipedia. I noticed that today. Figure out what the heck was going on with the Sword of Truth series. I have to look that up every time that looking for the next book. They have Tom Clancy books as well. Yeah, I've read like a couple of those. So I could slide those in between too. Yeah, for a while I just forget what I have until I just look at my pile of books. A few books of the Dune series, but I haven't touched that. I don't know, I just, yeah, looking for stuff to read. Yeah, I do have it, but it's just like, yeah, just go through a book at a time. No reading goals or anything, it's just something to read, and then I like discover a whole new series that has been around since like the early 90s, and it's like okay. Oh, pretty cool. Now, people used to have to wait for like a new book to come out in like a series, high fantasy or science fiction series. These days, you just find like an old copy and then just dive right in. So that's really cool. I kind of like that actually. That I can just like read through the entire series without having to wait for a new installment. That must have been hard for people who were reading through the series like in its time, like Sword of Truth, for example. Just to people must have had to wait. It was fairly consistent publishing for the first couple Sword of Truth books. 1992 and then, or 1994 first one, and then 1995 second one, and then yeah, it just goes from there. And these are like really meaty books. The Sword of Truth series, yeah, high fantasy, so there's a lot happening. Yeah, here I am diamond painting and talking about books, but yeah, I read quite a fair bit now, and yeah. So that's why it kind of goes hand in hand. But this isn't an episode of Reading Rainbow, though, so I can't go there. Yeah, not reviewing books or anything, it's just kind of what I'm into, so yeah, it's kind of like me with music. Like, I could be listening to like a top 40 pop song and then just go into like Mozart. It's like, it's kind of like that. I just like variation. Yeah, I don't like getting stuck into a genre, but you know, there are times where I'm just like wedged into it because I discover new music almost every day that I listen to it. I'm constantly surrounded by music. And then reading I do on my days off, usually in the evenings when I have the chance to go on a treadmill to get my steps in. I'm almost done the Mines of Moria. I have like 10 more kilometers to go. 10 point something kilometers, and then I'm done the Mines of Moria. That was a really short 64.4 kilometers. Yeah, so almost done that, and then I have like 2 more parts of this Lord of the Rings walking challenge. Then I have a code for the Great Wall of China. So right after the Lord of the Rings, I still have a bit to go with the Lord of the Rings walking challenge, but yeah, once I'm done that, I have like a Great Wall of China lined up. I'll just do a long version of that. It'll keep me busy for a while. Pacer, I'm still working on the Silk Road. Trading routes in Asia, in other words. Yeah, just walking challenges. So, yeah. Yeah, I'll just keep going. Keep tracking. Do a bit each day. Let's same for reading. Days off, just if I can get 100 minutes in. Oh, excuse me. It's kind of been on and off. Split 100 minutes because after supper we run the dishwasher. Oh, excuse me. So that runs its cycle, and it varies. Once I hear the sound of dishes hitting each other, or the silverware from the basement, I stop the treadmill and then go upstairs to help unload the dishwasher, and then go back on the treadmill. I want to go onto the treadmill and read, because that's kind of me time, essentially. Well, so is diamond painting in a way, but just to be able to go down on the treadmill, make progress on my walking challenges, and read some really cool literature or books. That's really nice. I really like that. It's almost something to look forward to. So I'm glad I'm back into reading now. Even if it takes me going on the treadmill, I just walk on the treadmill, I don't run. That's how I get a good chunk of my steps on days off. If I'm at work, yeah, I do laps in between skids or something, in between packing off at work if I have to wait for the blender to fill up. Yeah, and that helps big time towards achieving my steps on my work days. Yeah, just try to be active as much as I can. Just trying to make it as natural as possible. I just track my steps throughout the day. I have better days than others, but it basically habit at this point. So, yeah. And yeah, if I keep finding all these like fantasy, large adventure kind of novels, yeah, it just keep me motivated. It's like, hey, I can read this or check this out. Yeah, I still have like the Two Towers and Return of the King to read out of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I can just keep looking for different fantasy series to dive into. There are authors when I was looking up Terry Goodkind or whatever, other fantasy authors came up. It's like, oh wow, okay. Yeah, there's probably other epic science fiction series out there as well, besides The Expanse, which is kind of my science fiction series that I have all 9 of. Oh, there are novellas in the Expanse series, but I have the mainline novels in the series. My mom got me the final novel in the Expanse series for my birthday. So I knew it was out, but I was like, hey, I'll just ask for it. And then I have them all now. Yeah, it's like, how do you end something like that? But I guess there is some sort of resolution. It took 9 books, but I don't know. There's different scenarios in each Expanse book. They're standalone, yet they're interconnected by an overarching plotline, which is the same kind of explanation I got for the Sword of Truth series. They're each standalone volumes, like in the series, but there's overarching ideas and overarching storyline that connects them as you go. So I like that. Get different ideas or themes or scenarios in this massive world that an author creates, and then you get a story that just continues throughout the books and ties them all together. It's like partially reading partial spoilers. It's like, how does the Sword of Truth end? And it's like, looking at it and it's like, what? Read like a sentence and I was like confused. It's like, okay, who are any of these people? Like, that does not sound like the main character at all. It's like, yeah, with any like book series, there has to be like a main character that the story is told through. Or else it's like, what the heck? Like, it has to be told in a certain way. The Expanse is character driven, so each chapter is a different character. So I got used to that. I love that idea, actually. And Sword of Truth is just an omniscient kind of viewpoint where you're just seeing what's going on overall. Forget, was Game of Thrones omniscient as well? Or is that character driven? I got through a small chunk of like Game of Thrones, like first book, but yeah, I'll have to try that one again. That book again. I want to like it, but I don't know. Got distracted as usual. Yeah. Okay, so this half. I think that's number 34. So yeah, if you're just like dropping into me diamond painting here, and yeah, I talk about reading every now and then. That'd be why. No, not only because I'm doing these walking challenges from Conqueror and Pacer. I don't know, just like an attention span thing. If I try to read a book anywhere else, other than the treadmill, I'll just get distracted and set the book down and probably never pick it up again for a while. So I'm glad that I have a place where I can just like focus. Especially for like a high fantasy, science fiction genres. You kind of have to be attentive as to what's going on to an extent. In a way, some people might just like the elaborate plot altogether and understand what's going on. Me at times, I think it's just like getting the general idea of what's going on and probably not understanding the major concepts portrayed in a novel. Just kind of take it as it is. So it's kind of me with like Outlander. It's like, yeah, don't get lost in the details, just enjoy it for what it is. So yeah, so I think that's what I'll do. That sounds easier. Still reading, might not understand everything that's going on, but somewhat enjoyable experience. I think that's a little more important. You're enjoying what you're reading. Anyway, you've been watching Echoes of Color with Jeffery Morrison. Down below in the description, I put my Facebook profile name, my Echoes of Color Facebook business page, which is just basically a page within Facebook. And my Instagram, yeah. I seem to have trouble remembering Instagram. For some reason, it's like, it's connected with Facebook, but it's a part of Facebook. But yeah. All three of those I just put down below in the description. And yeah, I just update my social media every once in a while, like a finished section of my current work in progress here, or WIP. Yeah, just that kind of stuff. Nothing major, because social media is a very large, deep ocean of information. So, yeah, my posts are like generally like 30 to 40 seconds of reading, and then life goes on. It's just really quick update. But yeah, and I also post a couple of my walking challenge website links down there. I'm not affiliated or partnered with Conqueror or Pacer, even though it like probably sounds like I am. No, I just talk about walking challenges and reading on the treadmill that's interconnected. Basically, what this WIP and chat was going over, books and stuff. So yeah. Other than that, take care with your creative crafting endeavors. Hopefully your diamond painting is going well, or whichever craft you're doing. If you're just hanging out, thank you. Always appreciated. But yeah, take care. All the best, and see you again soon. Bye.